The blindfold was already tied around my eyes when I realized something was different about that afternoon. My best friend, Hannah, had never been this mysterious before. She had spent the entire morning insisting that I trust her, and now I was sitting at her family's kitchen table in a quiet little neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio, trying to figure out why she had turned an ordinary Saturday into a secret taste test. I could hear plates moving across the counter and the soft sound of her nervous footsteps. Then she placed something in my hand and quietly asked me to guess the flavor. I smiled, expecting chocolate or strawberry, but what happened next had nothing to do with dessert. It was about friendship, forgiveness, and a promise neither of us had known how to keep. If you believe that kindness, hope, compassion, forgiveness, and second chances can change someone's life, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, leave a comment, and subscribe for more stories that remind us that even small acts of kindness can make a lasting difference. Hannah and I had been best friends for years, ever since we first met at a community volunteer event. She was the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthday, carried extra snacks in her backpack, and somehow noticed when someone was having a difficult day even if they smiled through it. I was quieter. I usually kept my worries to myself, and over the previous few months, I had become especially distant. My father had lost his job, money had become tight at home, and I had started wondering whether the future I once imagined was still possible. I stopped joining friends after school, stopped talking about my plans, and even ignored some of Hannah's messages because I didn't know how to explain what was happening. At first, Hannah tried to cheer me up. She sent funny pictures, invited me to study together, and left small notes in my backpack. But eventually, I could tell my silence was hurting her. One evening, after I canceled another plan, she sent me a message saying she hoped I was okay and that she would be there whenever I was ready. I read it several times, but never replied. I thought I was protecting her from my problems. I didn't realize that shutting someone out can sometimes hurt more than telling them the truth. Weeks passed, and our friendship became awkward. We still saw each other, but something had changed. Then one Saturday morning, Hannah called and told me to come over because she had invented the most important taste test in history. I almost refused, but something about her voice made me laugh for the first time in days. When I arrived, she led me into her kitchen, tied the blindfold around my eyes, and promised that nothing strange was going to happen. I heard her preparing several small samples, and soon she placed the first one in front of me. It tasted sweet and familiar. I guessed strawberry, but she laughed and told me I was wrong. The second tasted like cinnamon. The third was something fruity that I couldn't identify. Each time, she encouraged me to keep trying. Eventually, she placed one final sample in my hand. It tasted warm, sweet, and slightly salty. I guessed caramel, but Hannah became quiet. For several seconds, neither of us said anything. Then she removed the blindfold. In front of me was a small homemade dessert shaped like a heart, decorated with simple icing. Beside it was a handwritten card. I looked at Hannah, confused, and she explained that the flavor wasn't what she wanted me to guess. The dessert was made from a recipe her grandmother had used whenever someone in the family was going through a difficult time. The strange salty taste came from the fact that she had cried while making it. I didn't know what to say. Hannah finally admitted that she had noticed how distant I had become and had been worried that she had done something wrong. She told me she had asked her grandmother what to do when someone you care about refuses to talk. Her grandmother had given her a simple answer. Don't force the person to open up. Just make sure they know the door is still open. That was when I finally told Hannah everything. I explained what was happening at home, how embarrassed I felt, and how afraid I was that my family might never recover. I told her I had stopped answering her messages because I didn't want her to see me as someone with problems. Hannah listened without interrupting. She didn't pretend she could fix everything. She simply reminded me that friendship wasn't a reward given only to people whose lives were going well. That afternoon changed something inside me. Hannah couldn't solve my family's financial problems, but she helped me understand that I didn't have to carry every worry alone. Over the next few weeks, she helped me find volunteer opportunities, encouraged me to keep studying, and introduced my family to a local community group that offered practical support. None of it happened like a miracle. There were still difficult days, uncomfortable conversations, and uncertain moments. But slowly, hope returned. Months later, things at home began improving. My father found new work, and I started planning for the future again. One evening, Hannah and I sat on the same porch where we had once talked about our dreams. I thanked her for that strange taste test. She laughed and said she had only wanted to remind me that sometimes the most important flavor in life wasn't sweetness at all. It was knowing someone cared enough to stay. If this story touched your heart, please support the video with a like, share it with someone who might need a little hope today, and consider subscribing. Sometimes the smallest kindness becomes the reason someone finds the courage to keep moving forward. Before the story ends, leave a comment telling us about one person who helped you during a difficult time, even if their kindness seemed small. Your comment might remind someone else that they are not alone. Years later, I still remembered that Saturday afternoon. I never forgot the blindfold, the homemade dessert, or the handwritten card. But most of all, I remembered the lesson behind it. Real friendship isn't always about having the perfect words or fixing every problem. Sometimes it is simply about leaving the door open, sitting beside someone in silence, and reminding them that difficult seasons do not last forever. And whenever life feels uncertain, I remember Hannah's taste test and smile, because the flavor I was really asked to guess was never strawberry, cinnamon, or caramel. It was hope.